Hello, hi everyone. My name is Xavier Places and I am a Product Marketing Director at Open Bravo. Today we will focus on ERP flexibility and how this solution capability helps efficiently companies to succeed in today's fast-changing economies. To do this today, I'll count with the participation of John Fandel, Vice President of Enterprise Solutions at Agility ERP, which is one of our gold partners and one of the most experienced partners in Open Bravo. John, first of all, thank you very much for your participation today, and I think it's your turn.
Thanks a lot, Xavier. Let me just talk a little bit more about Agility ERP and myself. We are, like Chavi said, an Open Bravo Gold partner since 2009. We're actually in our 8th year as an implementation and consulting company. Our focus is on building what we call adaptive business solutions, and we use Open Bravo for that. Now, we originally operated as the enterprise applications group of a company called TDS, which is a Boston-based services company. I'm the co-founder and VP of Enterprise Solutions for Agility, and for my entire career, I've been involved with enterprise software, ERP, business analytics, planning, warehouse management, functionally, things like that. Now, technically, I started out as an application developer on IBM mainframes in the retail grocery space. And then I moved on to IBM iSeries, then to Windows, and now really onto the web and open source technologies with Open Bravo. So previous to Agility ERP, I worked actually directly for Open Bravo for 4 years with a focus on strategy and products. So I've been immersed now with Open Bravo software for 6 years and in the trenches delivering Open Bravo-based solutions with customers for the last 2 years. So my perspective is pretty broad, really, from both the provider side and as an implementation company. I've seen a lot of what works and what doesn't in the real world. And I think I've learned some of the keys to creating sustainable systems that really deliver real value. So it's kind of with that background, I'll share some examples and insights from some of our customer projects in this presentation. First, I'd like to just step back a bit and consider what's driving the need for a flexible ERP platform like Open Bravo. So I want to start with you first and just kind of throw out a few prompting questions to get our juices flowing. These are a bit rhetorical as talking points. This first one, we see this more and more. People, they tell us that they know how they want to run their business. They're not interested in vendor best practices, but they are interested in implementing their operational vision on a flexible ERP platform, and Open Bravo seems very flexible, and can we do it? So the point is that some businesses really are different in ways that matter, and those companies are looking for enterprise software that they can mold to their needs in order to execute their business model effectively. So from a practical perspective, that's the key thing that you get with a flexible ERP platform, the ability to mold it to your needs rather than having to work around the software vendor assumptions about how businesses like yours work. Now, that second question really speaks to the time pressure that IT is under to deliver to the business what the business needs to execute successfully. And the third one on backlog is obviously related to the second. If your development cycle is too long, you tend to get backlog and your users complain. And I'd say the fourth really speaks to the original promise of ERP, which in many cases is not fulfilled, in a lot of companies. So I'd say if you answer yes to, say, 2 or more of these questions, then a flexible ERP platform will likely deliver quite a bit of value for you, and hopefully you came to the right place with this presentation. So let me step back even further now and talk a little bit about what is driving the need for flexible ERP in this day and age. And let's start kind of in the upper left-hand corner and go clockwise, because I think it's really the business environment that's driving everything. It's more dynamic, more global, more complex than ever, and the rate of change is just accelerating. And the external business environment really demands business agility from the company itself. And that business agility, in my mind, it really translates into operational excellence. So you've got a lot of companies out there, they're running on accounting-centric ERP software that basically results in a bunch of fragmented islands of information because the core ERP itself was not flexible. So the companies have adopted all kinds of solutions around the ERP in order to make up for its deficiencies. And that really tends to make things difficult from an operational perspective, especially for SMBs who we see they're increasingly competing on this business agility and on the customer experience. And I know Bravo sees a lot of that in the retail space when you're talking about omni-channel and serving those customers. We're also seeing it, in the B2B context as well. So these first two are really about the business. And now as we round the corner here to IT, we have the constant struggle of IT and business alignment, where IT needs to deliver usable functionality to the business. Changes are going to be inevitable. What we see is there's a typical 5 to 7 year ERP replacement cycle. They get the ERP software in, they configure it, and then basically they cement over it. And they say, oh, we're not really changing this. We'll change these other systems, these systems of engagement that we've wrapped around it. And then, of course, over the years, because the core system is not adapting, it's not adaptable, 5 to 7 years later, we've got another ERP project, and maybe it's with the same vendor, but maybe they've moved on and acquired something else, and even with the same vendor, it can be a whole new upgrade cycle. That tends to be disruptive and expensive. So what if, you actually had a flexible ERP platform that could keep the business aligned with the IT? And then this last one, the IT complexity, it's really speaking to the challenges of the IT department itself. All kinds of opportunity out there, integrating SaaS apps that, the business is bringing in, maybe authorized, maybe not, incorporating new technologies like mobile. All of these things really demands a robust platform for IT to make this all work together. So when we talk about an ERP platform now, really what is it that we're talking about? And this slide shows some of the attributes of a platform. And I'd say in this context, a platform, it's really a configurable, extensible software system that's built to support easy deployment of new functional and technical capabilities. So as a platform, our customers, they tend to view OpenBravo with a strategic long-term perspective. So they're choosing OpenBravo, yes, for the business functionality, but they're also choosing it for its unique ability to easily accommodate new functional needs as they arrive. So these are some of the key properties. I'll call out a few, and these little symbols, actually you can see I'm going to use them throughout the presentation as I talk about some of the different customer projects, and I'll call out which of these attributes is in use at each project. One of the key things with OpenBravo here on the lower left is the model-driven development, which is basically a very robust application dictionary that lets you enter into the data model of various attributes, and it will generate a lot of screens and business functionality for you. Okay, so adding a new field to a table or adding a whole new table, which will show up as a tab in the user interface, it's a very straightforward process that doesn't require any coding. Another one that I think is unique about the OpenBravo platform, everybody claims to be modular, this one here with the two puzzle pieces, but OpenBravo has really done a lot of investment in their modularity. which lets us as a provider create modules and load them into our customer, and then still allow the customer to take platform updates from OpenBravo. The modules themselves are specified with dependency management regarding the releases, so it's all very structured and very well managed. Some of the other things to call out, the architecture is actually very scalable. We have some of the biggest OpenBravo customers that we've worked a lot with OpenBravo directly to increase the scalability. So the scalability is there. You know, I talked about silos of information. Well, obviously, in some cases, you're going to have external systems, right? There's no one enterprise application that's going to serve all the needs. So on the right-hand side here, we've got the strongly interoperable, and we've got some good examples of that using web services. So that's when I'm using the words, you know, flexible ERP platform. These are some of the components of it. Okay, so now I want to take a look at actually 5 of our customer projects, and I'll kind of show them on this graph. On the horizontal axis, we have time. So the ones on the right are the older customers who have been with us longer. And the vertical, I kind of try to plot what I see as the value, how much value are they actually getting out of the platform itself, the flexibility of the platform. And in some cases that relates to time. As they mature, they extract more value, but not necessarily in all cases. So the first one is a military logistics services provider that works with the U.S. government. And I think they're actually probably our oldest active customer. They've been with OpenBravo since I think it's 2007 or 2008. So they've been with us with the platform a long time. Multi-billion-dollar organization, very large. They have an IT staff. On the other end of the spectrum, I've got a fairly new small company. This is number 2, a branded merchandise distributor. They have no IT staff at all, about a $10 million company with a quite innovative business model that we'll talk about. Another one we've got is a transportation services provider. They serve customers like Schneider Logistics with container cleaning services. They can, you know, tanker type trucks. And they've got a number of different locations and some interesting things they're doing with the platform there. Then we're going to talk about a mid-sized process manufacturer. I'd say this is probably more of a common manufacturer package type application, which is why they've been with us quite a while. Probably not using the platform as much specifically because this is very focused on business functionality. So in this one, I'll talk about how we're using the platform to meet their functional needs. And then finally, we have another very large company in adult higher education that's using it. As you'll see, it's not with ERP at all necessarily. It's a very specific custom-built application that they needed that's quite strategic for them. So let me start with the military logistics services. This is a $4 billion technology and engineering company, and what their project, like I said, about 7 years ago, was to pick a platform to support delivery of their logistics services to the U.S. military. Now, what they do, they have multiple contracts with the military, with the Marines and the Air Force, to provide logistics services. So they're shipping replacement tires and parts for tanks and out into the field. So they're actually doing warehousing and ordering and delivery of these parts under government contracts. So what they wanted was really a single system for the many different contracts that they're working with. And the challenge there was that depending on the contract, they have various different workflow variations. So, for example, in some cases, you might have the ordering and the shipping process happening at the same time as goods are received. In other cases, there might be a separate approval that's needed or specific documentation that goes along with certain types of materials. Very complex regulatory and compliance environment. And this is really from the start was a long-term play for this company. It was a platform. They were specifically shopping for a platform, and they found OpenBravo. So one of their goals, I wouldn't say it's necessarily a challenge, but one of the requirements was, for this custom system, they needed it to be custom and they needed to be self-sufficient on it with their own developers. So this is a company, like I said, large company. They have IT staff. They have people specifically developing for OpenBravo, and that's their job. So some of the benefits that they got from OpenBravo, and again, these are some of the symbols. One of the really powerful features is the organizational modeling in the system, comes with data level security. So in their system, a different government contract is modeled as an organization within OpenBravo. So you can set security that's role-based at the organization level. So certain users, they might be able to see products and vendors from some of the contracts, but not for others. And this is arranged in a hierarchy. So once you set up your model and you define your master files according to this hierarchy, you really have a lot of flexibility in terms of people's views of information. They see only what they're supposed to see, but yet it's a single integrated database, which they also needed because they have some shared vendors, for example, across these different contracts. So the second one, this is the scalability here. Scalability was key for them, and it was related to that single point of management that they wanted, that central control. So Oracle database was their standard, and OpenBravo works natively with Oracle. So that was a huge benefit for them. The other thing was the use of Java. Their developers knew Java already. Some of them learned Java. They have a lot of interop requirements with the government, generating different standard outputs, whether it's EDI transaction sets or XML type formats. And Java just has a lot of different frameworks like JAXB and many others for easy interop. So that was a key point for them, to let them fairly easily generate the outputs and accept the inputs that they need. Now, from a screen perspective, they found that the screens that are generated from the application itself are very productive for their users. And, because they have a lot of different government-specific data elements, they've introduced a fair number of tables and screens themselves, and those screens are automatically generated. On the workflow side, we worked with them on the workflow engine to customize that to accommodate the different process variations across the different contracts. So it's basically organization-specific application logic that you can patch into the system in a very structured way. Now, going to the right-hand side here for the wrench here and the screwdriver, right? These are the tools. The fact that OpenBravo uses standard open source development tools and practices was really a key to their own self-sufficiency. And it's not just the tools themselves, it's also some of the practices, which their CTO at the time, John Coble, and actually we have a video where we interviewed him on our website and on OpenBravo's as well. Very, very forward-thinking guy. And he saw working with a company like OpenBravo as a way to inject open source best practices into his team. So they're doing things like how OpenBravo has set up automated QA testing and continuous integration, right? So all the version control, and when you check something in, The code is automatically built and automated tests are run. All that kind of infrastructure this company has also adopted so that they can very reliably push new code into production, which they do in 3 to 4 week sprints on a continuous basis. So, and they do it very reliably because they've got that infrastructure. So basically, a vendor like OpenBravo, where you have this large open source project, that's development in the large, very formal, all very visible and transparent with version control. This was the type of practices that this company wanted to adopt, and they got that with working with this product. Now, in some cases, I'm on this next one, and I don't have a symbol for this. There's a collaborative development option. Like I said, this company was a very early adopter of the platform. So because of that, over time, functional gaps were identified. And in some cases, it didn't make sense to have us build them or them do it themselves because it's something that really belonged in the platform itself from a maintenance going forward perspective. So a really nice thing about OpenBravo as a commercial company behind this product is that they will do collaborative and sponsored development where, we'll take one of our large customers like this one. They've done the most collaborative development with us. And I think Agility has probably done the most collaborative development features with OpenBravo themselves. So the idea is that we do the requirements with the customer, and OpenBravo actually includes it in the core distribution and assumes the maintenance going forward. So we've got a lot of examples of that. And a final thing I'd say from a platform perspective is the integration with other commercial open source products, the potential for that. I mentioned some of the Java frameworks before, but there's another one that we're looking at with them right now. It's an open source production planning and forecasting system called Freppel. And I'm going there next week with the CEO of Freppel and the founder to do a pilot with them. So Freppel has out-of-the-box integration with OpenBravo. So it's quite interesting when a company this size with an IT staff, when they get traction in open source, they tend to keep using more open source and combining it together. So again, this is an example, I'd say, our most mature, largest company, been with us a long time, have really, really gotten a lot of value out of OpenBravo as a platform. They were somebody who was shopping from a platform, by a visionary CTO at the time. Okay. So on the whole other end of the spectrum, this is a branded merchandise distributor, and they've been with us. I think we started with them in October of last year. So very new, small company. And let me talk about how they can get value as well from a flexible ERP platform. So these guys are interesting because I think their business model is quite interesting. It's really branded merchandise as a service. So think about companies like, say, DuPont or Caterpillar or Coca-Cola. Where do all those branded T-shirts and sweatshirts and hats and coffee mugs and things come from, right? These guys are basically delivering that as a service, and they started out with Magento, right, with the website of it. They do 3PL, third-party logistics. They don't own any warehouses themselves. They rent the warehouse space. So it's essentially they do the sourcing from China, right, for the T-shirts and whatnot, coffee mugs, and the CEO will go to China, keep these relationships, and in many cases they'll do drop ship to their customers, and they'll do some warehousing as well. But the whole point here is to provide this as a service so these large companies don't have to do it. So They started out executing this with Magento and several different instances of QuickBooks. They've got a web store for one of their large customers now in Canada and one in the U.S. And what they found pretty quickly is that they really have limited cost visibility into the inventory with Magento. Right? Magento is a great e-commerce system. It's not an inventory system. It won't do FIFO costing. Over time, as they do their sourcing, they weren't getting that visibility to grow the business. And, they had no IT staff. So the company, Invelo, I'll give a shout out to them. They're a Magento service provider, and they recognized fairly quickly that the company was asking them for requirements that Magento just wouldn't do. They could keep customizing it, but at some point it breaks and you need an ERP on the back end. So Invelo assessed various different ERPs, looked at open source, looked at commercial, and came to OpenBravo and decided, hey, this is something, maybe we want to be a partner. They looked at that and said, no, we need to focus. This ERP is big stuff. Let's find an ERP service provider. So we came into this account through Invelo. So what did we do on the platform side? The first thing I'll say is, their requirements were a lot of standard stuff, right? Standard OpenBravo business functionality, financials, procurement, inventory, sales. And you did a lot of that with OpenBravo out of the box. That's the other thing when you talk from a platform perspective, right? A lot of technical people think of a platform like something like SharePoint, where you have all these technical capabilities. Well, OpenBravo has that, but it has all this business functionality as well. That's very abstract, out of the box, and extendable. Okay. Similar to the previous one, the organizational security model, they use that as well. They have some salespeople who are contractors, but they want to give them their own little view of the business, and the security lets them do that. They want them to have visibility in certain products, but there's an institutional side of the business that has custom products that they don't want them to see at all because they sell them internally, so they don't want they don't want them to see their margins on that. So the security lets them execute that business model. From a model-driven development perspective, we added a number of custom fields. We added alert widgets for their order follow-up. Their sourcing process is quite iterative, and they needed to track that. They didn't want to put in a more formal, CRM or vendor management at this point. And what we did was sufficient for them, and we were able to do it very quickly. From a modular perspective, we used a number of different OpenBravo and Agility ERP modules. For example, they wanted FIFO costing, and that's just a module that we were able to drop in. Now, on the web services side, the OpenBravo system generates web services itself automatically for all of its entities that you define in the system, and it's also very easy to create custom logic and expose it as a web service. So we were able to do that with Magento for the interoperability of passing the orders from the web store, and then now in our next phase, all the product definition information is going to be started in OpenBravo as a system of record and then pushed back up to Magento on that side. Okay, so I think this is actually fairly typical for an e-commerce type company where they'll start with the e-commerce side and then kind of back into the ERP. So this is a case of OpenBravo being the first ERP for a company, very small, very different from that first one. All right, so this next one, they've been with us a little bit longer. This is over a year or so. I'd say this one's in the middle. This is kind of interesting because it's our first mobile deployment. That's the little guy here. Let me talk to these guys. They actually do They provide cleaning, testing, and repair services for commercial and industrial portable liquid and dry bulk containers. So when you're on the highway and you see any kind of containers, whether it's a shipping container or some kind of a tanker, right? This company cleans them. They provide cleaning services for them. So they've got over 50 different locations around the United States where somebody like the Schneider Logistics will, they'll drop off their container and, they'll schedule it with this company, drop it off. They'll tell them, okay, this is a specific chemical that was in there. Based on that, they have very complex service operations with different cleaning procedures, okay? So one of the challenges here in providing an ERP platform is that you've got all these different locations. A lot of them, or a fair number, have been acquired. They had location-specific legacy pricing to maintain, and these different locations also have different capabilities. So it can be the case that to provide a certain cleaning service, one location may have to do it one way because they don't have certain equipment, and the price is going to be different there, whereas the other one might have to do it a different way. So there's a pricing impacts, and there's actually execution impacts on the operation side to show the worker, explicitly, hey, for your site, this is what you have to do to actually achieve this. So one of the drivers they had was some of these large customers, right, demanding real-time visibility into the status of their containers. So they were coming from, with these acquisitions, multiple different systems, consolidating them into one, and then, hey, this isn't just an accounting system. Schneider Logistics, they do a lot of their planning and optimization, right, in their systems, very highly automated. Well, if they don't know when they're going to get the container back from cleaning, that really throws a monkey wrench into their planning. So they say, hey, I can track my Domino's pizza. I'm paying you $800 to clean this big asset that I have. You need to be able to tell me where it is at any point in time. So again, this multi-site, right, this organizational model with security comes in. Like I said, these 50 locations, each of them is a separate organization in Open Bravo. The work order tracking, we use the model-driven development there to create a very robust work order system. It's integrated with the sales orders, but it's decoupled from it. So the guy actually executing the work order, it tells him exactly what he needs to do. He can add things if he found, a hose was broke and he needed to replace it. He can add it. He doesn't see any of the pricing, right? He's just executing, but it's fully integrated with the sales order side. So this third one, the customer information, right, that they actually need a self-serve, hey, I need to get on, see where are my containers, and basically download them as spreadsheets if I want to, and then I can suck them into my planning system. Now that's something that with a lot of ERPs, you have to go to something external like a SharePoint in order to achieve that. With Open Bravo, we're actually doing that in the Open Bravo workspace itself to allow their customers to see their widgets, expand them, and then download the information and filter as well. This is another customer. They have one developer. They're not like the first one where they have, entire staff of people. They've got one guy, but they've created, in this case, their own custom pricing logic. It's standard Java, so they can code a Java Pojo, and they have. So that works out very nicely. Now, when you talk about scalability, these guys are very Amazon-oriented. They've deployed in the cloud, and they actually just recently upgraded their instance, and boy, it made a huge difference. So it's very simple to, move the dial over as you're rolling this out to the different locations, which is really one of the reasons they wanted to do it, both for the flexibility and the scalability, and then even having off-site backups of the data. One of the things they're looking at with the next release is using Postgres actually as a service. Right now, the Postgres instance is hosted on the same server as the OpenBravo application server. But Amazon provides what they call RDS, Relational Data Services, and Postgres is one of those. In the next version of OpenBravo, that will be supported. So they're looking at that. It's quite interesting. They have full high availability across regions. So you can have an automated backup in real time streaming that Amazon will support for you with failover. And you can pay for that. So now just, your whole database and recovery infrastructure is something that you can outsource that. And they're looking to do that. So here I mentioned the mobile. One of the things that they do is what they call yard check, which is they go out in the yard for the containers, and they're now in the process of putting barcodes on each of their customer containers. And with this yard check application, they go out and scan them, and they can see exactly what's there. Because some of the locations have a guard shack, right, where somebody's actually there checking them in. A lot of them do not. So the customer just pulls up, right? The trucker pulls up, and he drops his container, and throws his paperwork in, and then he leaves, right? And they have to keep that inventory. So this yard check application is actually a mobile app, and I've got a couple just sample screens here. We use the OpenBravo mobile framework here, and the benefit for these guys is they have various different hardware that they want to be able to use. All this is web-based, and it's what's called a responsive design. So in this case, this is a screenshot from what it would look like on an iPad. And if you're on a smaller device, basically you'll get a one-up display, right? And then you can swipe left and right, to see your summary view on the left, and then the particular barcode that you're scanning on the right. So having the ability to create mobile applications that are connected right to that same database is very powerful for them, because it lets them feed that information into that customer portal as well, so that they can give the customers exactly what they want. And again, same technology stack here, single sign-on. If I'm in my web browser in the back office and I hit my URL for the web application, for the mobile web application, I'm already logged into it. So this is something that we're just in the process of rolling out with them right now, and it works really well. We actually based our design on some mobile warehouse stuff that OpenBravo had done, and we thought they did a pretty nice job on it usability-wise. So we took that as our starting point for this mobile yard check. Okay, so this was transportation services. All right, so this next one here, they've been with us the scale's probably a little off. Maybe they haven't been with us that long, but this is a process manufacturer. And I would say that this one is a more traditional ERP type implementation. Mid-size manufacturer, it's a process manufacturer. They do industrial lubricants, stearates, things like that. So their challenges were fairly typical of a process manufacturing. Their production process is quite variable, which means they don't actually even know what they produced until it comes out. In some cases, they have to categorize the end product, which is a challenge. They have a lot tracking that they have to do, and on the quality side, they need to run a large number of tests. They might pack out 15 pallets in a given production run. And during that run, the quality characteristics can change. So they have to be able to capture quality information within a lot, even on a pallet by pallet basis as they sample it. So that's a typical challenge of a process manufacturer, that kind of variability in the process. And then I'd say there's a spreadsheet culture as well. This was their first ERP. OpenBravo was. So that's always a challenge, bringing in the first ERP depending on the culture. So here I'd say no multi-site, no different type of business model that needs to be supported, more standard type stuff. So a lot of the benefits that we got were from building out new functionality and then using some of the modules, some existing modules that we had and that we've developed. So example, we did a production reporting, a streamlined screen. OpenBravo kind of assumes you're planning it first and then you're going to produce what you planned. Well, in their case, like I said, their production is kind of variable, so we had to support kind of an after-the-fact production and make it much more agile. Similarly, on physical inventory, they have the count tickets that we now generate for them, and they actually put it on the product so they can see when it was last counted. We have our own Agility ERP module for managing document comments, so that you can attach comments, say for a particular vendor or a customer or certain products, and then those comments will show up on the PO as it gets printed or on the sales invoice. So they like that flexibility and they've used that. Now with them, we've actually created so the document comments is something that we created in the past with a previous customer, right? So we package it as a module and then we're able to reuse that as well with other customers, which is great from a service provider perspective. As you know, we build up our own software assets, we can be much more efficient for our customers. Now, similarly, we're actually doing the development. We're just finishing this up of a QC module for their testing. So we've used the model-driven development to generate the screens, and we've packaged it into a module. And we already have another customer that we're going to start using it with. Let me go on to the next one. The final one is higher education, and this is another very large company. And this actually has nothing to do with ERP at all. Let me explain this one. These guys, this is a several billion-dollar company. They're in the higher education for working adults. This is a for-profit. And their goal with this project was to create a single centralized product catalog application. And, you know, there had been different acquisitions. They were replacing several legacy systems. So their data model, which they produced, right? These guys, of course, you know, billion-dollar company, they have IT staff. They actually have a separate operating company that provides the services. And they created a very flexible data model that took all the requirements into account of the existing legacy systems to be replaced. So when they looked at OpenBravo, the competition wasn't any other ERP at all. The competition was really just do it myself without a platform like this, right? You know, they have developers. They can build these things themselves. So it's kind of interesting. We actually we competed and lost to somebody on the AR project. So we came in and I think we lost to Dynamics AX they implemented. But as part of that cycle, their architect said, hey, you guys have some really flexible stuff here. In the future, we might have a project for you. And then they came back later and they said, yeah, let's do this product catalog with you guys using OpenBravo. So from a platform perspective, this is what I call a kind of a bring your own data model, right? They have their DBA and their architect and their functional people. They had created this data model. It actually started out at about 35 database tables, and we entered that into OpenBravo. We had to add some OpenBravo specific fields. Say, for example, for auditing, there's some standard fields that we added. That was fine with them. We generated all the base screens. They liked the base functionality to maintain all this stuff. In certain cases, we had to extend the base screens with some advanced filtering because they wanted to be able to filter on subtable attributes. So they had a lot of one-to-many relationships, say between a different item in the catalog and various things underneath, and they wanted to be able to filter on those subtables. So we provided that for them. this is really, you know, a centralized master file. It's publishing information to their SOA layer. That's, you know, it's going out to their learning environment. It's going out to their e-commerce system. It's going out to their AR. So this is really the system of record for this product information. And it's, you know, there's millions of products actually in there, whether it's a branded cup or a certain certification or a given class that you're taking. Everything is in there as a product. Because of that, they had a very rich multi-layer hierarchy of how they model their products. And one of the things we did was we worked with OpenBravo to greatly expand the tree grid functionality. So you could basically search through any level, imagine a 7-level hierarchy with several million products in there. And it's very fast and it's very efficient. And these are, on the scalability side, these guys also do Oracle as their standard. So that was part of their selection criteria. And the tooling was also very important for them. I'd say the first year we did most of the development. We would do several month different sprints with them. They would tell us the requirements and we would implement it. We've since trained one of their key developers, and now, which was their plan all along, and you know, he's pretty self-sufficient. In a given release, we're just doing a handful of the more difficult ones, and he's taking over all the routine type maintenance. So that's really something you get with this type of standard open source type application, where you can actually take control of it, and that was really important to them because, you know, it's a key piece of their architecture now. Okay, so again, this is really, you know, purpose-built, very specific thing. They're not using any of the ERP functionality at all. They're using the platform really as a tool, right? Generating the screens and using the web services and the development tools. So let me just kind of step back, you know, and if you just look at this, right, the range of customers that we're serving here with this platform between the different types of industries and the different sizes, from a little 10 million guy to a multi-billion guy, you know, it really speaks to the platform flexibility itself. So now I'm getting near to the end. I wanted to kind of step back and close the loop on what we said originally. And for me, it's really all about execution. Right? This flexible ERP it's about being able to execute in your environment as an IT group for your company. And one of just as a final note, I ran into a book about 6 months ago that I read called Best Practices Are Stupid by this guy Shapiro. And it's just excellent and totally ties in with, I realized, hey, this is exactly what I've been doing with my customers.
Okay, so thank you very much again, and see you in the next webinar in Bright Talk. Thank you very much, John.
Thanks, Chavi. My pleasure. Bye-bye now.
Bye-bye.